Destiny has had a history in its 10 years of delivering memorable moments that stand out in gaming. This channel has dedicated the better part of 3 years covering those times and remembering when Bungie hit the nail on the head. But what about when they don't? With the paradigm shift in the eyes of fans that Bungie has been making a lot more mistakes, I figured it was about time we talk about the progressively worse mistakes that changed the course of Destiny history. The mistakes that changed Destiny forever. These will get progressively worse, but I think you know which one will be talked about as the biggest mistake late into the video. Some of these have been forgotten in Destiny's lineage, but some will never be forgotten. To prepare you for a bunch of painful mistakes, I want to show off a game that surprises me with depth and a loot chase I know Destiny players are looking for.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid is a completely free-to-play mobile and PC game with over 80 million downloads already, and I want to tell you about my top 3 champions that I'm currently using. We have Cardiel for support, Acrizia for the best boss killer in the game, and Geomancer for doing Geo things. This spring, Raid is organizing a dragon hunt. Just download Raid Shadow Legends using the link below, copy your in-game player ID, and then head over to egghunt.plarium.com until May 15th. You'll have a chance to win amazing in-game items and even real-life prizes like Amazon gift cards. Existing Raid players can join the Egg Hunt as well and find the special promo code down below. With all this exciting stuff and more coming to Raid, if you haven't started playing yet, then what are you waiting for? New players can use my link or scan the QR code right here and get a free starter pack with this cool in-game loot. We're taking the first mistake back to the days of the Worldline Zero, an exotic sword that altered Destiny's history in terms of movement, giving players access to speeds the way they always imagined. Worldline Zero became a core part of players' loadouts from the time of release in the Warmind DLC through Shadowkeep's launch, and was even propelled further when Bungie gave Warlocks an Icarus dash in the update to Solar in the Season of Dawn, with a double dash even. This is what a lot of speedrunners consider the golden age of speedrunning, with double dash, worldline, sword skating in general, mountaintop climbing, and more. Clips like these all came from this era. Bungie came in with a change to swords in the way that the heavy attack energy was used. And with this, worldline skating was dead. The reasoning was never made fully clear, but a community manager just said that the speedrun community will need to find new ways to break the sound barrier. It would take all the way until Eager Edge was introduced in 30th anniversary for movement to reach anywhere close to the same level, which also indicated that Bungie knew nerfing Worldline Zero's movement tech was a mistake, and let everyone enjoy it in the future. Sometimes mistakes have happy endings. Some mistakes are not happy endings, however, as Bungie absolutely nailed hard mode raids in Destiny 1, and even started off Destiny 2 with some new ideas, but ultimately would abandon them in Forsaken all the way through Vault of Glass's remaster 2 years later. Hard mode raids were the raids we loved. They added some new twists to the mechanics and had the remaining raid loot we also wanted. They had ornaments to gather, levels to earn, loot to be had. It was a great time. In Destiny 2, Leviathan would carry on the tradition and share this, but prestige modes in Eater of Worlds and Spire of Stars were not received all that well for forcing loadouts and having modifiers. Nowadays, the community would froth at the mouth over prestige modifiers, but Bungie removed them and hard mode entirely, and now we have master raids, which completely miss the point and offer no reason to engage with them. For Master, you get some extra materials and adept weapons that can drop with some enhanced perks. but the loot is random in a sandbox that I can just craft a god roll, and adept weapons serve no noticeable advantage.
You serious?
Bungie also had the opportunity to bring back the Age of Triumph ornaments in the Raid remasters for Master Mode, but decided not to. Abandoning hard mode and prestige mode, especially in terms of loot, has left the hardest PvE challenges with nothing worth raiding for. It's a shame. Honorable mention, since this one is very niche but made a huge impact, was the one that I believe a lot of players forgot about: box breathing and trench barrel's nerfs. Box breathing and trench barrel were both huge perks for the weapons in the Warmind DLC, like Ikelos sniper rifle and Ikelos shotgun. Back then, box breathing could be procced by holding down sights on an enemy for a couple of seconds, re-procced on enemies after about a second and a half, each for a 30% boost to damage. This perk was nerfed for all weapons except Whisper of the Worm for no reason. There was never anything game-breaking about this perk, and Bungie seemed to include it in future rolls of weapons without any mention of ever buffing it again. It lasted for a few months of being strong, then out. Trench Barrel, pushed with the Ikelos shotgun, became a Destiny staple since Warmind all the way through Forsaken. This shotgun could fire super fast. Bungie started by nerfing Trench Barrel, so it was no longer on an infinite timer, but had to be re-procced via melee. Then they nerfed the speed of the shotgun and any other with this frame. Then Trench Barrel got a damage nerf later on. This perk isn't as bad as box breathing anymore, but it's still a head scratcher why Bungie nerfed these perks so hard when everyone agreed they were just plain fun. So far we've mentioned more niche mistakes Bungie has made, but one we can all agree on is Bungie's seemingly lack of focus on core activities. This was originally a spot for strike exclusives from skeleton keys the way players got accustomed to in Destiny 1, and even exclusives up until Forsaken. But then I quickly realized that neither Gambit or Crucible have had any focus in years either. Crucible and strikes were the lifeblood of Destiny, and Gambit started to become a main focus in Destiny 2. And it's nothing short of criminal that these activities get minimal attention every year, especially when there's supposed to be 3.0s and a focus to them that seems to completely miss why players even engage in these activities. I don't want you to add a payload to Lake of Shadows. I want to get a new weapon or armor piece that looks like the boss. No, I don't want you to make Gambit a more balanced experience. I want you to add maps and loot to the pool. And Crucible is literally the end game for most players. And I have no reason to bring my rolls in there if there's nothing to do. Not even new modes. Bungie needs to correct course here and bring the milk back home from the gas station. Just like the missing incentive for Strikes, Crucible, and Gambit, we have something that makes every Destiny veteran listen to the orbit music of Destiny 1 to soak in the feeling of nostalgia those Friday nights provided. Coming home from school or work and just hopping on not knowing what you were grinding, but still making progress and leveling up, it just felt nice. But getting an exotic you didn't have felt even better.
Done. Nice.
Oh my god, I got the go horn! Oh my god! Oh my god, I got the go horn! Oh my god! Oh, Gallahorn Invex! Gallahorn Invex! Oh my god! Oh my god, yes! Oh my god! Oh my god, I got the Gallahorn! Oh my god, I got the Gallahorn!
In Shadowkeep, Bungie would embrace the idea of an MMO-style game, with more targeted ways to farm gear with stats you would want in the activities and materials to go with them. This meant that random dropped armor exotics were no longer random and out in the wild. No feeling of excitement to hopefully have one drop. They were now relegated to the Nightfalls. Then, in Beyond Light, a focused piece of armor was now in the Lost Sectors, and has been locked behind this ever since. Everyone agrees that weapon and armor RNG not existing in the game, to even some extent, is very predictable and boring. It lacks the excitement of being a game, and has become more like a job to get the exotics out of the Lost Sector. Not to mention, weapons are mostly behind quests too, with the only exotic weapon RNG coming from raids and dungeons. It just makes you wonder if Bungie will ever change their minds on this system, because right now, it's uninspired. Uninspired may describe the loot chase in regards to exotics and the core activities these days, but inspired was Activision and Bungie when they set out to make Destiny 2's vanilla game. Just not inspired in the way fans wanted. You see, esports was making huge strides in cohesion with the game developers and directors at the time of Destiny 2's arrival. Rainbow Six, PUBG, Call of Duty, and Overwatch were all getting the spotlight on the big stages, with Overwatch even getting TV deals on ESPN. This no doubt inspired the direction Bungie would take into Destiny 2. A more balanced approach isn't always the best if the pendulum swings too far in that direction. Bungie implemented double primary loadouts with no random rolls on weapons, and while the initial PvP balance was great, maps built around this 4v4 style and loadouts made the game stale, boring, and slow very quickly. This affected so much in the game's history that it led to something we will talk about later. I'm certain that the content of DLCs would be received better if it weren't for these changes. Just as I'm sure that PvP maps in Destiny 2 would become a lot more fun with maps designed around 6v6 instead of the 4v4 ways that they were originally. The sandbox would also have to adjust to 2 primaries and 1 heavy, and when Bungie eventually swapped things around, the content in the first year got rolled up and smoked faster than Robot Callus could blink. This directional pivot single-handedly tore away so many players from Destiny, and although Bungie is successful now, they never fully recovered all the lost players vanilla Destiny 2 unfortunately let go. Maybe not vanilla, but definitely the beginning of a new era of issues was the original implementation of Stasis.
Are you kidding me? I go through all that and this nerd with his little ice ability freezes me.
This was a nightmare for Destiny, as you'd be frozen for just looking someone's direction, and it got many players to agree that Stasis was a must-have. But wait, if you didn't own Beyond Light, you were screwed. Bungie would spend more than a year fixing Stasis after the mistakes of its launch, and it's no wonder Strand didn't come out with Witch Queen and was pushed to Lightfall, since Bungie probably didn't want more hate for how broken a super was. Seriously, nothing will be as broken as Stasis. I'm waiting for everyone to come back when something is definitely stronger than Stasis in the future. Maybe this is my plan. You'll never know. One way to recover all of your losses is to make Eververse filled with all of the loot players were used to receiving in the game. You want a cosmetic that would be in a strike? Yeah, Tess never called up Fenchurch, and in the Curse of Osiris is where she went the most rampant. It was calculated back then that you'd need to spend thousands of dollars on RNG engrams to get every item in the game. Keep in mind that shaders were consumables to drop and not a one-time thing. There was no collections page, and there was no bad luck protection, meaning duplicates were in play. Bungie would pull this back in Forsaken, pushing every Eververse engram to drop for players so you'd never really have to spend money, just to go back to making Tess have all the desirable loot in Shadowkeep. Bungie would then say that they want to take Eververse and throw it into the game, which they did for the opening of Beyond Light by putting some cosmetics in the title grind and other activities, which was great, only to then silently go back on their word again. Eververse will always be a mistake in the way it's handled as long as the player base keeps spending money every time there is an ornament in the shop. It wouldn't be seen as much of a mistake if Bungie could throw some of these ornaments and other things into the activities, and it would go a long way to help the health of activities players once enjoyed. Guess it's time to bust out the credit card for a new finisher in the shop. Just like changes can affect the game's history, so can stagnation, and this mistake leaves every player wondering how they can step up their game. What do I mean? no leveling changes in years. At this point, most, if not all of you watching, and I, hate the leveling system, but want some sort of way to evolve it. Bungie has not changed this in a meaningful way since Forsaken, and with the artifact XP increasing your levels and activities, it just feels worse. The apparent rumor or leak is that Bungie will be doing away with leveling entirely, and the confirmed information is that the pinnacle level each DLC is the leveling you need for that year. Leveling was a core part of the fun in Destiny 1 all the way through Forsaken, as seeing something so much higher level than you made moments special and gave reason to engage with everything in the game. I think Bungie is making a mistake by abandoning leveling entirely when they did it so well in the past. And the stagnation goes to show that players want change, it's just not happening. Remember this?
Just let it out. Just let it out one.
How does this happen?
Every quest! Stop! Test the game!
The door was one part of a bigger issue. While players flocked to Destiny for its secrets and puzzles, Bungie took the annoyances of the door and the Bastion from Corridors of Time, even the world events, as a sign they should abandon secret missions and events entirely. Since these moments, Bungie has done very little in the secret mission department and the more hyped up events, not something like a Telesto event. I fail to understand how some feedback on how to make them stronger turned into they don't want them. No, I don't count the Vexcalibur, the Dead Messenger, or the Revision Zero to be secret missions, since there is little to no build up to bring you into the mission or to get the exotic. Hopefully Bungie changes their minds and brings these missions, these puzzles, and these world events back to the game, since they're really the special moments in Destiny's history. An honorable mention that I debated adding to this list, but I know it's again very niche for a lot of players, is the server capacity overload on the day of Vow the Disciple. It's not like Bungie intentionally put this in, but the servers did break to the point that people left with a bad taste in their mouth for an otherwise fantastic raid. Vow the Disciple would not be looked at well, and the impacts of this raid made it so raid racing started on Friday mornings instead of Saturday mornings, meaning a lot of players couldn't get out of work or school to be able to raid race. It's a real shame. From unfortunate mistakes to mistakes that felt well planned out, we have the airborne effectiveness changes. This one had an impact on the entire year of Witch Queen. Airborne effectiveness was a new stat that nobody asked for, which gave your weapons less accuracy in midair.
Dude, that sound is loud.
You what?
Titan lines up the shot, but almost tried to aim too hard there.
Oh yeah.
But he's gonna give the jump shot a try. I guess we're just testing. And
You
what?
like it?
What?
Shut it down. Shut it down. That's it.
Okay.
With airborne effectiveness came perks on weapons to enhance this stat, and exotics like Stompies would be hit the hardest by airborne effectiveness. It made the sandbox of the game abandon some weapons for a more sit back and relax and spawn type of gameplay. Plus, this affected PvE too, as raids where you'd shoot enemies could no longer work the same as long as you were in the air. Airborne effectiveness has since been honed in a lot, but this had to be one of the biggest wastes of time in Destiny's history that would alter the game forever. This next one is a bit of a multi-problem tied into one, but the root of a lot of issues in Destiny come back to the free-to-play model introduced in Shadowkeep. Free-to-play on its own is not a mistake, as the Shadowkeep years showed so many players had a good time. Jumping into Red War, Curse of Osiris, and Warmind's content for free was more than a great bargain. But with free-to-play came issues like the Season Pass Fortnite model, which is still dragging to this day. It feels soulless when these ornaments and rewards could be pushed into activities instead of mindless grinding. Free-to-play would also be a mistake because Bungie allowed it for trials with no anti-cheat, which meant Skynet was out and about in trials.
What the fuck?
Look at that! He's shooting a sniper like a machine gun!
What the?
Just get a pick next round.
Run, Moira, run. Literally run. You can't do anything. You can't do anything.
7th column, baby.
He's
They're all cheating. They're like all cheating, bro.
Enemy team
They're
has
all
no
cheating.
reserves.
bro. What is
They're
happening?
all
Oh my god.
Oh my god, bro! Yeah, we gonna hide somewhere, man. Like, hide.
Guys, bro.
Oh shit. Yeah, there.
To make matters worse, free-to-play is a confusing mess to this day, with a new light mission experience missing a ton of pieces, and most of the game making odd decisions on what is free and what is not free-to-play. This confusion for everyone, especially the free-to-play players, can be placed on one mistake in particular though. And finally, the one I'm sure you were all waiting for is here. Sunsetting. I will make a full video on the biggest mistake in Destiny history, which is no doubt sunsetting, because Bungie missed on almost every mark. Where to begin? In Destiny 1, Bungie did sunset weapons and armor for year 1 into year 2, but were quick to give the same, if not more, new weapons and armor in return. In Destiny 2, the player base was told time after time that sunsetting would prevent another Destiny 3 disaster, the way that Destiny 2 Vanilla had suffered, and that the game would get more stable and fresh content in return. What this has boiled down to is getting all the weapons and armor that I already grinded 3 years ago handed back, and advertised as new stuff. The pinnacle weapons that caused sunsetting are now mostly back in the game in some way. Maps were chosen at random to sunset, strikes removed at random, and of course the raids were hit the hardest. Retcons, lies, and not sticking to their guns has led sunsetting to become Bungie's largest mistake in studio history. No player or developer was left with a good taste in their mouth, and Bungie would walk back a lot of sunsetting, with exemption to seasonal content by Lightfall's release. It was a decision made on a whim without just delaying an expansion, and the biggest slap in the face might as well be the first mission of Beyond Light, giving players a soon-to-be sunset legendary sniper. I don't think sunsetting is a terrible idea on its own, and I think most players can understand sunsetting to a degree, but the way it was handled will always leave sour tastes. So that's the list. What do you guys think? Did I miss something? Maybe a list of 12 wins Bungie had to follow up this one? Since I'm now just a Sour Patch Kid coming in with the sour and now I'm going to be sweet? Let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.